Okay, so part two, we left off the last part. There's going to be a link in the video. Again, if you want to like and comment, or if you have any further questions about this, we can, you contact me through the YouTube channel. This is a relatively private situation, although the idea of purchasing mineral in the ground, that's been around since the 1800s.
Right.
But on the industrial side, obviously there's a finite amount, but the big thing is the research you've done in being able to find this stuff which is easier to get at. Right. And it's based on existing surveys, existing geological surveys, but it's still one of those situations where assigning an actual cash value to it is one of those things where it's kind of like a buyer and a seller put together, right?
Right. Though these values are pretty well established, the world markets are obviously available on what people are paying all over the world for the same commodity. So these are, I'm not going to say they're fungible like currency, but they definitely easily assessed value with what they call demonstrated proven reserves. These and also these rights are very strong rights. These the mineral rights in the United States, as an example, have well over 150 years of litigation behind them. So people know who owns what and what their rights really are.
Mm-hmm. And with regards to the government incentives, what incentives are for the government to deal with this or facilitate it one way or the other? It seems that common sense, and again, the government doesn't always practice common sense, but we'd like to think that it's easier to find sympathy on a situation where the mutually beneficial result of everything is to get the infrastructure in place, to get the industrial stuff,
right.
the items, and in this case it's silica, which is something we've been able to secure here in Oregon because of particular types of sand. And so then everybody's interest to get that, to process it, to make glass, to drive industry. And Oregon in particular is relatively industry friendly as long as it's not a wasteful, chemical, poisonous type thing. And that's where they've run into the issues with some of the chemicals and the cyanides and all that used in gold mining.
Right. The world price for industrial silica is between $6 and $20 a ton, depending on its usage. If it's just bagged up for weight in the pickup, that's one thing, or landscaping, or actually, of course, it can even be used in the computers. But these assets are. It's the bigger pie theory. As they lay dormant, of course, there's very little value in the community, but as the infrastructure is put together to do the mining, to do the transportation of these goods and services, it creates a lot of jobs and therefore tax revenue for the local communities.
Right. So if somebody invests in this, there's a greater interest in local politics, at least, to facilitate that. And obviously there's chances of interference, let's say from somebody who wants to play the environmentalist extortion game or something like that. But there's such an established clean industry with glass making and industrial tempered glass that's used in a lot of things. I've noticed some advertisements where for durable computer screens they're going back to glass and a lot instead of plastic screens because it's more durable and you can work with that. Now, with regards to the transactions in the alternative currencies, you have access to owners and investors who already patented these claims, already have these claims, and because of their interest in protecting assets, they're very interested in transactions which would involve the Bitcoin. And to the best of our knowledge, there's not currently any kind of a stock market in the alternative currencies at this stage. I mean, there's a little bit of a trading thing between a few.
Yeah, a lot of times those currencies are very helpful simply in the transferring of assets from one to the other. You go from the mineral to the to the currency, and then that's easily moved into something else. Another thing was, you mentioned patenting there, which is gaining the rights to the property in addition to the mineral. And actually, the step prior to that is a big advantage, because when that, prior to patenting, there's a very small fee to maintain that property. There's no taxes that are levied on it until the mining is actually done.
So if somebody is holding, let's say they're holding a fair amount of that digital currency, they may not have or may not have transferred all of that into a cash asset of dollars in a bank or something like that, which then has a tax liability attached to it. You could actually keep a lot of that in the mining thing, and that also helps build the value on whichever digital currency that claim, those
That's right.
claims.
The more widely it's traded, the better.
Because it's a known commodity that is worked with on that. The same way the petrodollar is an important issue with the U.S. economy. And nobody here, I mean, not too many of us buy or sell barrels of oil, but because barrels of oil are traded in petrodollars, there's a value to that. And we actually have access to mineral natural resources which can be traded in an additional type of currency, which would help build value on that.
That's right.
And so anyway, it's been a short video. Is there anything you'd like to add? I'm sure we have a few minutes left.
I don't know. I'm not prepared on that.
Okay. Well, I'm going to upload this. I hopefully there's going to be some attention and some insight that's provided with our online discussion. It's going to be a new series. It's as a part of my channel. You'll see other channels on other things. I'm personally not the financial wizard guy. That's one of the reasons I came to this conference, to do some research on this. I've worked in the past, and now I work in different modes of problem solving, but I'm looking to step my game up a little bit. Although you have quite a background in asset protection and things, and had some bumps with that. I mean, it's some of that experience came at great cost. We were talking a little bit off camera about it's really a serious play when a predatory government, and we dealt a little bit with people who had assets in banks in Central America, South America, Cayman Islands. You have a lot of experience in dealing in countries that had unstable governments, and
even
need for people to protect that.
In Switzerland, even of course, you've seen there. I believe 60 Minutes ran a thing on the thousands of Americans that were caught up in some kind of sweep on the Swiss banks. And apparently the Swiss were required to turn over records and so forth. I don't know, a bit of the humor on that, though, of course, was that the only person out of those thousands of people that actually had to do time was the person that had actually gone to the authorities and turned over the names. The other people were faced only with fines and so forth. But and then, of course, if you go back further, the Ferdinand Marcos, when he had troubles, his assets were seized in Switzerland on the basis of newspaper headlines alone, without any warrants or paperwork even. So,
I dealt with a situation, very small amount of money too, under $2,000 was with PayPal, and I had to talk with the people I was doing business with, and I said, listen, there's no website that says I suck, but there's websites that say PayPalSucks.com.org. I mean, they just grabbed it, and I had to prove it was my money. I had to prove it was a lawful transaction. I had to prove it. And after I proved everything, they released the money. But the thing is, I had clients who were thinking, well, if you're under that kind of scrutiny, what are we going to deal with?
It's a difficult situation.
And it really damaged me. It damaged my whole ability to do business with them. And it's a threat to, everybody when you really depend on a single financial transaction system out there for anything.
Right.
And that's been one of the selling points on the alternative currencies, although they have their own dangers And if you move some of that into the asset, like the minerals, that is something where you go to the courthouse, there's a value, there's an ownership of something.
Right.
There's an ownership of an actual physical asset. It's not like it's just something that's only on paper.
This is very strict, strong property rights.
Yeah.
With the minerals.
Right. Well, anyway, we'll close that and we'll talk a little bit more later.